Alrighty. So I'm going to go over pacing like I always do because I was going to touch base about where teachers should be. I'm going to go over the 40-day and the 30-day test prep plan, but not only the plan, but explain the phases so it makes sense to you. And then, of course, any questions that you have at the end. So like I always do in these meetings, I always show this slide just as a reminder. If you're a school that started top score rating in the beginning of the year, August, whatever the first day was, and you are following it along, you will or should be done teaching those main sections, which are 1, 2, and 3 by the end of February. We always want to leave March open for that individualization, small groups, tracking, things like that. However, because I know this year, like last year, is craziness, there are many schools that are behind, have not gotten through a lot of the lessons, and that's where the 30 and 40-day boot camp plans come in. I will leave that as an option. That's up to you and your schools and deciding if you think your teachers need it or not. But if you're on a regular pacing guide, the idea is to be done with sections 1, 2, and 3 by the end of February. Okay, so when I talk about the 40-day and 30-day test prep plan, these are our boot camp style plans. Even if you're at a school where the teachers have been doing the program from day one, but you feel like maybe they haven't gotten to a lot of the lessons, or a lot of kids have been absent, or the teacher's been absent, or it's like what I call sprinkling, not really getting in depth, then you may say, you know what, I'm just going to have my teachers stop where they are, and we're going to jump into this boot camp plan. Or you may be a school that really hasn't done a lot and you want that boot camp plan, that's fine as well. You make the decision if you want it or not, but that's what the 30 and 40-day boot camp plan is for. So it's really how to get every student to a 7 or higher in these 30 or 40 days. Now, the reason I have 30 and 40 days is because depending on what state you're in, some people have 30 school days or around 30, and some people have 40. So they're the same thing. It's just obviously the 40 has some extra lessons. I put some additional resources, but it just depends on your state and when your state is testing. So let's go into this real quick. The way that I always have designed my boot camp plans are through phase 1 and phase 2. So basically the idea is, if you look at the sample papers released from various states, a basic 7 isn't anything too much. We know the goal is to get every kid writing a 7 or higher. And when you really look at the 7s, there's really nothing fancy about them. What the 7s have are the basics. They have that simple introduction. They have that simple conclusion. They have those transition words. They have some sort of middle paragraphs, not the best, but they have those elaborate techniques with referencing. So what we do is we split this into phases, and phase 1 of boot camp is just teaching what I call the outer parts of the essay: planning, introduction, transition words and topic sentences, and conclusion. It's basically like the outside pieces, everything but the middle of the middle paragraphs. And the idea is that phase 1, the students should master. Okay, no student should not have an introduction. No student should forget a transition word. Phase 1, you have to master, because phase 2 is the middle parts, the middle paragraphs. Okay, that's where kids are going to struggle, but that means that they can't mess up on the simple stuff, which is phase 1. So if you're looking at a 30 to 40-day boot camp, you're looking at about 2 weeks of phase 1 and then 2 weeks of phase 2. Okay, that's how you move kids quickly. Now you're going to be jumping back and forth from informative to opinion, and don't worry, because we know it's the same structure. We know opinion requires a couple of additional things, but you know what? If they forget those things, it's not, I'm saying this because it's 30, 40 days left. It's not the end of the world. They may lose a point. The biggest thing is we want to make sure they have those outer parts. So what are you going to do, or your teachers are going to do for 2 weeks? They're going to plan. They're going to write introductions. They're going to write conclusions, and then they're just going to write that first sentence of every middle paragraph, which is the topic or transition word and topic sentence. That's it for phase 1. When they move into phase 2, then they're just going to work on the insides, which is the middle paragraphs, all the quoting, paraphrasing, own thoughts and ideas, referencing, the big stuff. And even if it's not the best of the best, they still should be able to pull off that 7. Here's what, when you look at sample papers, what do all the 7s and even 8s have? They have the basics. So we want to make sure that they're getting kind of that check for, okay, the student has a simple introduction, check. Okay, the student organized by indenting and transition words, check. Okay, the student referenced twice, check. We want to get as many checks as possible. In the end, if it's not the best paraphrasing or the best own thoughts and ideas, they may lose a point or two, but that puts them at an 8 or 9. But you got to make sure you have those simple parts. It always bugs me when a kid doesn't have very good middle paragraphs and then forgets to indent with transition words. And I'm like, why would you lose additional points on the simple stuff? You know, so make sure that they're splitting it into phases. So oh, this is, I forgot I had this in here. I should have showed this to you before, but this is a basic 7 out of 10 on one of the sample papers released from the state. And I wanted to show you, if you look at the second paragraph, okay, now this is about light pollution. You can see that it's a topic sentence. And then from the word in, where it says in source number, all the way down is a quote. It's literally a topic sentence and a quote. Okay, now we know that's not the way we want them writing a middle paragraph, but I'm just showing you that this is a 7 out of 10. Look at the next middle paragraph. It's a topic sentence and a quote. That's all it is. All right, and then when you go to the second page, it has a topic sentence, one sentence of paraphrasing your own idea, and then another quote. So are these the best middle paragraphs? No, that's why they lost 3 points. Okay, they're definitely not the best middle paragraphs. But I'll tell you what they did. They have a simple introduction and conclusion. They organize by indenting, and they have some sort of transitional words or phrases that lead into the next idea. They do have paraphrasing, at least once. They do have own thoughts and ideas. They do have referencing. They do have quotes. So they touched on every little piece. Not the best, but it's a clear essay. It's focused. It flows from introduction to middle to end. So it has all the pieces. The middle may not be the best, but it has all the pieces. So I always like to point that out because, you know, I always see some teachers getting worried about, like, is that first middle paragraph perfect? Don't worry about it being perfect. Let's make sure they have all the outside pieces and then go to the inside. Again, I'm only saying all this because we're talking about 30, 40 days left. If it was August, I wouldn't be saying this. All right, so let's talk about phase 1. Phase 1 is the outer parts. When they're in this phase, they are not writing anything in the middle paragraphs. We are literally focusing on and mastering the outer parts. So if you're walking into a classroom during phase 1, you should not see middle paragraphs being written. Okay, I always suggest they use box paper during all of phase 1 because every kid needs to learn how to separate and organize their paragraphs. Okay, that's a non-negotiable from this point forward. It should have been non-negotiable from the beginning, but just in case, we want to make sure kids are organizing. You should see them planning. You should see them writing an introduction paragraph. For every middle paragraph in the T1, T2, and T3, you should only see a transition word and a topic sentence. That's it. We're doing the outer parts. We're talking about 2-3 weeks, depending on your time frame. And again, you all know if it was a perfect world, I'd say 45 minutes per lesson. I know a lot of you only have 30. However, if you are able to talk to administration and for the last 30 days, get 45 to 60 minutes, I promise it'll make all the difference in the world. Even if you can just get it for the last 2 weeks, it would help. I want to show you a picture of what phase 1 looks like. Okay, this is phase 1. We have a simple introduction, a simple conclusion, and then for our middle paragraphs, we have a transition word and a topic sentence. Okay, obviously you should be farther along in transition words. Only your very low students should be using first, second, and third, but just to give you an idea. All of phase 1, this is all they're doing. I don't care if they do it 50 times. I want them to be perfect at all these things because phase 2, we're going to fill in the rest of T1, T2, and T3 the best that we can. All right, but when you do it all at the same time, it's a little overwhelming for kids when you're trying to move them in a small amount of time. Doing it in these phases makes all the difference in the world. I started this about 4 years ago in Marion County, and it worked really well. We moved almost every student where they need to be in 30 days, just by breaking it up into phases. Again, their introductions, if we're starting from the beginning and they haven't had much teaching of introduction, they're not going to be the best. But let's stick with the word simple. Simple hook, simple state your 3 reasons or ideas, and close it out with a closing sentence. All right, same thing with conclusion. All right, if you look at when you download your 40-day plan, just to give you an idea of what it looks like, you can see I have like day one, whenever your day one is. Maybe your day one is tomorrow, maybe your day one is February 1st. I don't know, whatever your day one is, you start with lesson 24 and you can see the objective for that. And then day two, some of the lessons I think should take 2 days. So you can see under days on that third lesson, lesson 26, I put day 3 and 4 because that lesson really needs 2 days. Okay, so I've noted that and I put it in the notes. It says this lesson will take 2 days to complete. You're gonna see a lot of jumping around. If you look at starting with lesson 24, 25, 26, and it goes to 50. That's because we're jumping to opinion. So we're going to do 3 days of informative planning and then 3 days of opinion planning. And then a couple days of informative introduction and a couple of days of opinion introduction. Remember, same structure. We're just doing that repetition and practice, repetition and practice, repetition and practice. Then we go into transition words, conclusion. And then when you see day 18 and 19, which is lesson 48. Day 18 and 19, lesson 48. That's where they put it all together. But I want to take a look and go over the notes with you on that day. They are going to be using the passage set and prompt from lesson 48. If you want to choose a different one, no problem. But for this test, remember, they're only doing phase 1, which is they write the introduction, they'll write the conclusion, and then they'll write the transition word and topic sentence for that test. It's kind of a test of phase 1. Can you do phase 1? Okay, they're not writing a whole essay with the middle because we didn't get to phase 2 yet. All right, and then there's always conferencing time. For phase 2, okay, by now, phase 2, they should be mastering introduction, conclusion, and transition word and topic sentences. We're good with that. Every kid from here on out should be doing that. Phase 2 is the middle pieces, those middle parts of the paragraph, quotes, paraphrasing, own thoughts and ideas, referencing. Okay, that way you're done with the outer parts. We're just focusing on the middle. We're going to get them the best that we can. We're going to try our best to paraphrase. Everyone can put a quote. I don't care if they're ELL, ESE, everyone can put a quote, copy the sentence and put quotation marks around it and reference the title where you got it from. Own thoughts and ideas. We're going to try our best to put our own thought idea and then referencing. Remember, they can reference in parentheses if they want by putting the title. And they only need to reference 1 to 2 times per middle paragraph. Okay, no one should lose points for not referencing. And remember, if you don't reference, you lose 2 points from the very beginning. The state automatically takes off 2 points. So referencing, another non-negotiable. We're not going to lose 2 points if we didn't reference. So if you look at phase 2 of the plan, you can see we're on day 21 and we're going to do an overview. Then we're going to go into quotes, paraphrasing, own thoughts and ideas. And then we'll jump to opinion, quotes, paraphrasing, own thoughts and ideas. And then we do some practice tests at the end. And then the last minute strategy lesson is the last one. If you have 33 days, then you have, a few extra days to do some extra things. But this lays out 30 school days. I mean, this is the 40-day one, the 40 school days, and then the 30-day one's very similar to exactly what your kids need to do, broken down into those phases. All right, so if you're a coach or administrator on here and you got to go back to your teachers, I'm recording this. You can send them this video. I also have a video specifically describing the 30 and 40-day plan for teachers. So I will send that to you all as well as a follow-up to this meeting with these plans. But that's the idea. Again, kind of, I had a school last week say, we've kind of been following your original pacing guide, but we got off and a lot of kids have been absent. What should we do? And I said, I would jump to the 40-day plan. Just because if it's been kind of wishy-washy, just jump to a 40-day plan, make sure they get what they've gotten. I had another school that said, we're behind, but we've been following it. We're still in informative. What should we do? I said, jump to the 40-day plan. Unless you're in opinion and you're almost wrapping it up and you're on that schedule that we originally came up with August, then I would switch over to the plan. But if you've been following along, then you can stick with what you're doing because either way, they're getting what they need. This is the 30-day plan. Okay, the only difference is there's not a lot of the extra stuff in there, like the race against the clock, you write all those little additional activities I just took out and I put the 30 most essential lessons. So it's the same thing. They have phase 1 and phase 2. So you have the 30-day plan as well. All right, just make sure the teachers always look at that notes box because it'll tell them what that test should look like, or what that activity for the day should look like for each of the phases. Now I am going to put, oops, I want to put this in the chat pod real quick. Okay, now this is the YouTube link to the video that explains the 30 and 40-day plan, but underneath the YouTube link, and I'm going to see if I can pull this up because I pulled it up earlier. Okay, let me show you all real quick. When you go to the YouTube link, that's like the worst picture I could have paused it on. Underneath, you can see here, it says Top School Writing, and it has the plans right here that you can download. Okay, underneath the YouTube video. So this is the video you can show to your teachers that explains basically everything I went over with you, a little bit longer. It's a 10-minute video in depth about how to use these 30 and 40-day plans with phase 1 and phase 2. And then underneath, you can download the actual plans. When you click on it, it'll open up the plan for you. All right. And of course, I'm going to leave time at the end for questions. There's all of our email information. I will be putting out later a last minute tip video and PowerPoint. I always do that every year. So just be on the lookout for your emails. And then if you guys have any specific questions, you can always email one of us or give us a call. But I know it's kind of, January is that time where it seems like, oh, we have till April, but if you really count out the days, we're in crunch time, especially with spring break. We're looking in that 30 to 40-day range before test day. Someone asked if there's a plan like this for 3rd grade. Most states, not all of them, most states only test 4th and up. If you do need a 3rd grade boot camp plan because your state does test 3rd grade, just email me and I'll be happy to put that together for you. Other than that, 3rd grade, the goal is section 1 and section 2 by the end of the year. Even if you just mastered section 1, that would make the 4th grade teachers' lives 10 times easier next year. Don't worry about finishing all of 3rd grade curriculum. Okay, I'm going to open up the chat pod. If you guys have any questions for me, let me know. Other than that, you guys are good to go. I like to keep it quick and simple for you. The next time that we meet, I'll be going over those last minute strategies and any test prep questions. Other than that, have a good day, everyone.
Hey, Lisa, I have a question. We in Arizona have the argumentative for 6th grade, and they have to give the opposing argument as part of the criteria in the rubric. So would you recommend that instead of doing, so like in that body where there's the 3 paragraphs, would we just change one of those to be the opposing and then keep the other 2 to be the argument?
Yep. And if you will email me, I will send you those 2 lessons, because in our 7th and 8th grade, we have that because most states only require 7th and 8th to do that. But that's exactly what you'll do. You'll change that 3rd middle paragraph, and I have a structure you can follow that has like the rebuttal and evidence. So just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to send those to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome. Yes, Megan. So the 30 and 40-day plans are for teachers that are not on pace, or it's been kind of wishy-washy this year. I just know a lot of kids have been out, teachers have been out. If they feel like their kids really haven't gotten in-depth teaching of all the lessons, then that's probably, I would go to the 40-day plan. Or if they're done or almost done, they're like, you know what, I just feel like I need a review of everything and make sure they really got it, I would jump to that. It's just most of the time it's like a half and half, but this year's been so crazy with teachers and students and COVID that everyone's kind of like, I taught it, but I didn't really get to all of it. And, or it could just be like a review. Yes, that's a really good point, Kendra. She said if teachers are on pace, they do like a check of phase 1, like do the test of phase 1, and then you can jump to phase 2. That's a great idea, actually, because you could see, do they really have the outer parts? Because even if you're on pace, sometimes we go back to it, and I just got essays the other day, and I'm like, really, guys, you didn't indent one time, no transition words, like why are you losing a point on that? So just to make sure they get that simple stuff, that's a great way. You could just jump to that test part of it and say, just do these 4 or 5 things and let's see if you know it. And then really you could do small groups from there if like most of them got it, but there's a small group that didn't. Thank you, Donna. You're so welcome.